Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
Hey, I'm Tyler.
And I'm KC.
And I'm laying down on the bed.
Perfect.
And you're listening to
The Element Podcast.
Well, hey there, girl. I bet you've heard that before. The way you sit right there, acting like you're so bored. What can I say?
what's going on my woods people. I don't currently know what the weather is outside. I don't even know anything right now, hardly. I'm just like barely back from the dead is what it feels like. The last 5 days have been insane, man. So much, really longer than that, because as you're about to hear the story, I was able to tag another deer at the end of the Kansas season. And, so since then it's been, here's one thing that people don't understand.
Let's hear it.
Here's one thing. When I kill a deer, or when either one of us kills a deer, I don't think people understand how much work happens within the next 20 hours. It's like
20 hours is specific.
I'm just saying, not a whole day probably, because by 5 o'clock the next day it's not work anymore. But for a while there, it's pretty insane.
Yeah,
especially that night. I'm sorry, but I hadn't looked at my phone till 11 p.m. that night, or whatever, and it's just this whole thing has to happen from the production side point of videoing, and also there's some social media stuff that we don't do very well that we try, it's I'm going to try to get a couple of phone shots of the blood trail and stuff so that I can make sure and add to the story. And then you got to make sure that you're telling the actual story on video. And then, any kind of still picture content that you can get is good too, which we haven't really got a whole lot of that because, pretty much from about half the season, it's been just you and me again, and just like it always has been. So,
and you got to carry an extra camera pretty much to do that, right?
Yeah,
and we just don't have room in our packs for that most of the time.
No, so we don't. So anyway, then basically, so I go straight from there into just more Christmases, even though it's after Christmas, and I took Jed on a duck hunt that was really cool. We did a morning, and then I actually had Christmas the day before that. Then we had to take off down there early from that Christmas. Did the duck hunt the next morning early, and then had to drive back home and meet my wife and get clothes so I could. She brought me clothes to town so that I didn't have to go get them, and then and lunch, and I literally just threw them in my car. Did my hair up real quick and went and did a wedding.
Oh, yeah.
And filmed a wedding till late that night. And it was just, and on New Year's Eve, I had a gig with a band playing guitar. Dude, it has been nonstop. And today was the first day that I actually got to breathe for a little bit. But at the same time, I still, did church podcast starting at 9:30. And here we are, at almost 8
7:45,
o'clock,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and we're starting another podcast. So pretty much been working nonstop. So I feel discombobulated. My truck is,
Oh, man.
just disastrous.
Yeah.
I was telling K.C. the other day, or today maybe, it's like, I started taking some stuff out of my truck, like camo and gear and stuff from hunting trips and stuff yesterday. And it felt real weird because I haven't done that since like September, which is just nuts. It's been like every time you get home, it's like, oh, I'm leaving in 2 days. No reason to unpack everything, So, yeah, it's been nuts. But we are now, we have wrapped Texas season for the most part. Are you planning on doing anything?
So here's the deal. I'm watching. If you're not from Texas, you don't know this, but for most of the state, the general season is over, which means you can use any weapon. We have a 2-week muzzleloader season. After that, it's muzzleloader only. Can't use a lesser weapon, which is real lame.
That's the worst rule ever.
It is. So now you have a bunch of people, including myself, who don't shoot muzzleloaders very often, who are like, well, if I want to hunt 2 extra weeks,
I'm gonna go wound
gotta
something.
go, get the old muzzleloader out and shoot a 50, a half-inch hole in something. I might do that, but that's only on private land for at least our purposes. We might can drive
because there's
somewhere.
so many bow only public land properties.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe some of the National Forest stuff would be that, but that's like we've already been there this year, and I don't really want to go back this year.
I don't want to go anywhere in Texas
Yeah,
right
no.
now. So, unless it was in the Golden Triangle.
Yeah. So I'm going to be doing that on my property, and pretty much it's just a trail camera game at that point in time. Just watching the camera and see if any buck decides to daylight, which outside of about a 10-day period, I haven't had daylight bucks all year. So, and that 10-day period is a month and a half ago. So perfect. And I don't really need the doe meat per se, because my wife likes hog meat just as much, if not better, especially for ground meat, than deer meat. So why not just shoot pigs instead?
Yeah.
And guess what? If you're listening to this, you can shoot pigs with us too.
Dang.
So that's the plan. Okay, guys, I'm gonna shoot all the pigs, and y'all can watch me. But no, I'm kidding. Everybody can shoot. Everybody gets to hunt. Well, we are having the first ever Element meetup.
Meat with an A.
Meat. Oh, baby. Why have we not thought about that already? The Element Hog Hunt 2021, the meetup, will be in Northeast Texas. We got a WMA picked out that we're going to go to, but we're not going to tell everybody that because we want you to come to our
Please don't
thing.
ask which one.
Yes.
It's like a $12 version.
Yeah, so
whatever it is.
the way you punch your ticket to this deal
$15
is it's real easy. Like we have a T-shirt mocked up for this deal. We're going to get a bunch of them printed and hand them out the day of. So go over to our website, purchase a Make 'em Squeal T-shirt, which is a quote from our last Element Hog Hunt that we did with the friends and family last year. I get pretty fired up when I shoot pigs, so go watch that if you haven't, and it's pretty cool. But we really want you to come, but the spots are limited. We can't have like 300 people show up to this thing.
Yeah.
If we do, it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, it is.
Hungry people is what that's going to be.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that, go. One, you can go look at social media, get some more details because we just posted that a day or two ago. Or you can just go to our website, theelementwild.com, go purchase your T-shirt and get some details there. And then once you do purchase, we'll send you a whole bunch of detailed messages about what's going on, what's going down. But that's February 12th and 13th, month and a half off or so. You can tell your wife, the family, and all kind of what the plan is. We're going to meet up on Friday night, have a meal together, do a little Q&A, maybe talk about hog hunting, of course, and like how we do it on public land, some of your options. And who knows, might have some couple guest speakers and whatnot. Make sure everybody's legal and has everything they need license-wise, which is cool. If you're from out of state, I'm pretty sure all you need is the public land permit. This is what they call it, APH?
Yeah.
APL,
Yep.
APH, something like
APH.
that. Yeah, $48, and I'm pretty sure you're legal, but you need to wear orange.
Pretty sure.
What?
We're pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that we're actually sure of, but we have to say we're pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly. Because liabilities are lame. plan on that, and then Saturday all day we'll be hunting and probably meet up, midday or mid-afternoon and swap some stories and see what everybody got. So it's going to be a blast, figuratively and literally.
Dang.
Blasting pigs.
We're
Blasting
so funny,
them.
man.
So I'm stoked for it, guys. I might sound a little tired, but that's just because I've been, had a long day.
Yeah.
But it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Last year was a blast, and we're going to have
Literally and figuratively
30 times the people this year, maybe. So who knows? But anyways, like we said, there will be a cap that we put on that. So if you are interested and want to hang out with us, we're actually not giving you a cap. We're only giving you a T-shirt. But you do need an orange cap. Anyways, go check that out on the website. Also, Tyler's going to tell us about his big Kansas buck. But first, a little more business to take care of. A lot of y'all been asking. Sorry we were a little bit slow in getting the word out, but we did do our 10K giveaway. We drew it on the day that we said we were going to, but instead of making a post and getting things lost, I sent messages out to people individually who had won. And so they have all answered, but I wanted to give a big congratulations to Texas bow hunter. His name's K.C. He's a killer.
Just same as you, Casey.
Dude,
he's a big bow hunter?
Texas bow hunter.
Oh,
He didn't say big
I thought
bow
you
hunter.
said he's a big bow hunter.
He's an average size guy.
Okay.
But dude's a killer, man.
Yeah.
He's killed some nice mule deer, and he was actually out mule deer hunting this week. But Casey won the Grande package, which is like the big time, dude. Like, I'm a little bit jealous. Not that it's stuff that I don't already have, but I could use more of all that, and he gets it instead. So.
Hey, speaking of, real quick.
What's that?
Something else you're jealous of is that I won a Target recently, too.
You did?
On social media.
Well, the Element won a Target.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I commented on
Official bone collector.
Bone Collector post and won a Target.
That's right, man.
I was one of two guys that won
That's
that
how
Target.
you know your brand is slightly smaller than Bone Collector when they're giving you
They're
stuff.
like, we don't know these clowns. We'll give them a Target.
That's right. Yeah, but okay, so the other winners are so we had 4 grand prizes, kind of playing on words, but that meant you won something that we use daily basis, and everyone won Elite Onyx memberships, which is what, $100 value or whatever, right?
Toothbrush as well.
Yeah,
That's something else I use on a
Salt
daily
and a half.
basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. We were trying to save weight.
Yeah, saving weight. So Edward Steinke, I think, is his name, but it might be Stinky.
Yeah,
I don't know. Ed's a cool guy. Ed shot 3 giant bucks this year.
Ed. First name basis, but not just first name,
Well,
nickname.
Edward, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm one of those guys who automatically shortens your
Me
name.
too. Me too.
If you're Stuart, your name's Stu for sure.
Stu.
So
Stewie.
Randy Kaiser,
Yeah.
Josh Rabska, who is a muskie slayer,
Yeah.
and then Danny Gilbreth.
Breath.
I don't know.
Breathe.
So I grew up in Sulphur Springs, Texas,
Yeah.
which is Sulphur Springs, if you don't know.
Yeah, Sulphur.
And that's Gilbreth is how you say
Really?
that name over there.
Really? That's odd.
Yeah.
Y'all
But-
got some odd sayings.
Yeah,
though.
well, we have 2 cows in front of our high school. 2 big porcelain 25-foot tall cows.
Cupper.
That's right.
Cupper. Everybody from Sulphur says that,
Oh,
man.
man. Yeah.
It's like the first time I ever heard somebody say that, I was like, hold on. How come this little place just gets like this its whole, way of saying it,
Dude, Brennan's nickname to Cody Brown is Greenville. That's what he calls him, Greenville. Because of how fast he says, and that's how you say it around. You don't say Greenville.
No.
Yeah, Greenville.
Yeah. We say that in Emory, too.
Yeah.
But we didn't say Cupper, which
No.
we're not near Cupper.
No. But anyways, congrats, guys.
Josh
Sorry.
wants us to come up and catch a muskie. But you and I talked about this. I'm not too keen on just 1 fish days, or actually like 0.8 fish days,
Yeah.
where like you might catch one a day.
Well, I
but
think you were saying 1 fish per boat day.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh.
0.8 fish per boat.
Ooh, tough.
Yeah. I'm saying that because kind of tongue in cheek, but like you're not like, you always hear like muskie fishing. They're like, yeah, you might catch one, might not.
Up there, you can't take a bluegill and hook it in the back.
I think I've heard that. Is that, you talking about Minnesota?
Well, some states, yeah.
Yeah.
Minnesota, you can't. And I think that most of those...
Because we fished Minnesota a few years ago. I think I saw that rule.
Most of those states up there consider sunfish as a game fish.
Yeah.
Probably because the ice fish and stuff there are target species and that. And, you just don't want people just slaying them.
The boy Sam wants us to come up there and spear pike. And I was like, I don't understand. Is it like bow fishing? And he was like, he started laughing or whatever. And then I was like, okay, well, is it during the summer? He's like, started laughing again. Yeah,
I ain't about that hard water, dude.
I would actually enjoy doing it. The issue is like, well, I guess if it was this time of year, there's not quite as much to do. But man, like during December, I'm hunting, man.
Yeah,
sorry.
My cousins live in Brainerd, Minnesota, which is about halfway up the state, and they have Gull Lake there near where they're at, which is kind of a I don't know, renowned fishery of some sort, right? And they have like a big opener where the ice is thick enough and the mayor says, everybody can go or whatever, Well, they have an ice fishing RV. The RV
There's a hole in it.
Has a hole in the floor.
Dude, that's cool.
Yeah, and them and all their friends have that, and they go out there, and that's like the... you know how in the South, for some duck hunters, it's not about shooting the ducks as much as it is getting in the blind and making the breakfast and doing the whole, the thing, That's kind of how they are about the ice fishing. Like, I don't think anybody but Greg is the one, I don't think he's the only one that fishes, but everybody goes out there and they just have fun and they go outside and see the other people and stuff. It's like a community event or whatever. It's kind of cool,
Dude, it's such a different life, man, than what we live.
Dude.
You know what I mean?
Right now, their days are like 5.5 hours long or something ridiculous. It's like, no, thank you.
I watch, sometimes I'll turn, if, there's not a whole lot on, I'll watch Northwoods Law, or I have in the past. And then my parents put it on the other night because Jet likes watching it. And I was watching and I was like, these people are like zipping around on like snowmobiles, and they have like, there's people laughing at us right now. They have
always
like these machines, for real, north or south.
Ice fishing.
They have these like machines that like clear trails for snowmobilers, and like not necessarily clear, but manicure these trails so that they're good for snowmobiling. And like these are like almost like public roads in the wintertime. Yeah. It's so weird, dude. Like that's not something that they just do every year. Yeah. It's like nothing weird or new for them. For me, I'm like, I've never seen such a thing in my life.
Yeah, it's like these trails just cross country.
Yeah.
But in the wintertime, it's like a highway.
Yeah.
And my uncle in Anchorage, he's always stoked for this time of year because the rivers get hard and he's got like interstate highways to go all these places. It's like, so the river just becomes a road. It's a weird, man.
That's like when I was in British Columbia, like the guides like talking about like using snowmobiles on the lake to hunt wolves and stuff like that, and it's just crazy to think about, man. It's such a different deal. Like I'm guessing that the majority of people up there actually own a snowmobile because that's how you get around in the winter or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Around here, we might not even hit 600 chill hours this winter. You know what I mean? So it's a different thing, man.
Yeah, I'm out here like trying to figure out if I can keep my citrus fruits out or citrus trees out.
I have a citrus seedling from this year that has not died yet. I have pepper plants that have not died yet.
Dude, your pepper plants are
they're pepper trees.
Dude.
Yeah.
They're the jalapeno trees.
Dude, I'm going to definitely, like if we get low 20s or something coming this way, I'm definitely wheeling those things in the kitchen and my wife can deal with it for a couple days.
You see my RV?
Yeah, that's right, dude. Got the sisters in there.
There's 3 trees in there, citrus trees. Once I get moved to my property, I'll plant them and plant them on the south side of the house so they don't get blasted too bad, and then just cover them whenever it's freezing. But the hard thing is when we travel during the colder parts of the year, it's like you stand a chance of neither one, me or my wife, being able to cover the trees up, and then they might just
or
get
your friend
toast.
KC, because quite often we are in the same place.
Yeah, but this year was tough.
Yeah, dude. After what did we say? After the COVID trip.
Yep, COVID trip.
We didn't really travel to hunt together because you were hunting your big deer, and I was trying to get a deer killed in Kansas, and then you went back to Kansas twice during blizzards and didn't get to hunt.
That was fun.
And I was I wasn't going to tell you not to go, but I was like, I don't know if you're going to get to hunt much.
Yeah.
So
the first time It's just like, I mean, really, technically, you can look at that weather, and I kept an eye on it both those times, and it is almost always worse than what they actually predict.
Yeah.
So,
Because I think it's because they don't account for the drift of snow. Like they say, oh, it's going to snow 2 inches, but it's so windy up there, it's like it all ends up piling up or something.
I think a lot of it is it comes off the rocky front, and they just can't really estimate what it's going to be until after it's already coming. You know?
It's the same thing here with rain. Like, if you see 1 inch of rain predicted, it's about to come a floater. I mean, it's going to get, usually that's 3+ inches, but they just know not to predict too much because people are like, what happened? Whatever.
Yeah.
But, anyways, we've had some separation anxiety for the month of November, December. But both ended up managing some public land deer in old Kansas. And we've talked about mine quite a bit, but I think we want to really hear your story because I've heard bits and pieces.
Yeah.
But so why don't you tell us the story of the first 2 trips a little bit?
Okay, yeah. So the like I said, the weather, we knew there was a possibility of weather both times. I think actually the second time, dude, the weather was so nuts then. Like, I mean, even hours before the actual things would happen, I didn't know for sure. It would be predicting rain, and then it would be predicting snow, and then it would be back to those same hours would be back to, oh, now there's about a 10% chance that any precipitation happens, and it'd probably be snow if it does. And then all of a sudden, we're up to an inch of snow, 90% for like 7 hours straight. It's like, what is going on, So the first trip that I went up there, I'm actually working on that edit right now, and we haven't put any videos out in a while. We're trying to, get through this holiday season for
Holidays
one.
raked us over the coals this year. And to be quite honest, guys, we are trying to be in the business of content production, and over the holidays, it's not a great time to put out a video. So, sorry we didn't get much out, but it wouldn't have got a ton of views.
Which I'm pretty sure we told everybody that your buck video is coming out on the 29th.
Did we?
That's not going to happen.
In case you're wondering. Was in the past.
That's in case you're wondering. That's not happening. So I think I actually shot a buck that night, maybe.
It's funny how killing stuff puts a hold up on a lot of other stuff. Yeah. Because we were trying to line up a couple podcast interviews too. Whenever you end up shooting that deer, and I was like, sorry guys, we'll have to talk about this.
More important things are happening right now. Yeah. But so that's the we're trying to get some videos out to you guys soon. The whole process has just kind of been slow lately. But the video's edited, it's ready to go. But we're trying to figure out how we want to do everything going forward as far as like what videos to put out, what tells the story best, and what it doesn't necessarily matter to the story or whatever. But I've been working on the first trip video, and it was actually a pretty good trip overall, because it was early December, and I got to hunt I guess when I first got there, and then the snow came in and went nuts, and it was like, I mean, we got like for real 6 to 8 inches of snow, and the issue for us is that's it, man. Like, the issue though is a lot of our properties, almost all of our properties, we have to park in the ditch. You know what I mean? Like, even our permission properties, like, we can't drive on them. So, like, if you're not parking in a ditch, then you're parking in somebody's like driveway that they get in to go feed the cows or whatever, and so you can't really park there, and unless you want to be kicked off of that property. You know what I mean? Exactly. So, you got to park in the ditch. Well, if there's 6 to 8 inches of snow, that's a great way to get stuck. And then now you're in the middle of nowhere, and it snowed so long. I can't remember even how long it snowed, but it was it snowed for 24 hours. I mean, it snowed an entire day, of the full day that we were there, and we just sat there, which was nice because I'd been going hard, and I just shot the buck in Texas at the end of November, and we left the next day, I believe.
Yeah.
And so it was really actually nice to sit, watch some TV, relax, do
Put
a
a
couple of
heater on
things,
your feet.
put a heater on, man, like golly, and just send some emails and just relax and eat some stuff for a little while. Because at that point I was like as light as I had been since I was 18 years old, because of just going hard and having COVID and everything else. So all that snow happened, and then I don't know, a day and a half later or so. I mean, I think I missed like basically 2 days worth of hunting. And then I got to go kind of towards the end of that trip. I got to go out one evening and a morning before we left. The evening I was hunting a wheat field, and it was like, I guess the trees had blocked some of the snow because it was coming down pretty sideways for a while there. And when I went into this spot, I got permission on last year. There were like trails coming to this area where the snow had not covered the wheat. Not trails, but tracks, a couple of tracks. And so I was like, that happened last night. And these deer obviously came here because this is where they didn't have to dig through the snow to get to the food. And then I'm like, well, it also it just so happens to be that there's a tree here that blocked that, so I can hunt in a tree. It's like best of both worlds.
Let me ask you a little bit of strategy right quick before we continue. Well, say this happened. Say a fella brought him a snow shovel. Could you shovel out like a eighth of an acre right there and bring the wheat up and not have snow on top of it and make you a little food plot?
Probably.
In a situation
I would think,
like that?
especially if you get like where that top layer melts and creates an ice layer on top of the snow, and it's hard to break through. I bet you could make something like that happen, and it would work really well. But Mother Nature helped me out on that situation that time around. But anyway, I hung there and like, dude, it was upland city. It was ultimate upland, man. It was like crazy, dude, how many pheasants were out in that wheat eating. And then I even saw a whole covey of quail come out into the wheat, but they're on top of the snow running around like crazy. I don't know if they eat green wheat. I know the pheasants will.
Wheat.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if quail will eat wheat. So, like,
they might have to if that's all.
I don't know. It was nuts. There was so much snow,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, maybe they're out here for this, because they were super worried about the hawks and stuff around, But they came out for a little bit. So anyway, that all happened, and then I saw a coyote pounce a rodent through my binos. Saw him get the rodent and eat it and everything
In the snow?
Yeah,
Like Marty Stauffer style?
yeah.
That's cool.
Planet Earth looking stuff, man.
Yeah.
It was cool, and I didn't video it. I didn't get it on video because I was sitting there like, this coyote's like 400 yards away. I'm not gonna.
It wouldn't have been
turn
worth
my
it.
camera on.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's like, boom, pounce on it. I'm like, I should have got that. So anyway, I then saw some deer moving and proceeded to watch for an hour and a half a buck chase 6 does in a small circle of CRP. Like, no, I'm not fibbing at all when I say 45 minutes to an hour of straight running, like almost not stopping. It was unbelievable. I'm like, this is December.
What type of buck is this?
Good buck, shooter buck.
Really?
I can't, even on the footage, I can't quite tell what he is, like points and everything.
I don't know this part of the story.
Yeah, he's a good buck. Dude, just raging in there. I'm like, dude, it just blew my mind how in December a deer can still do that and not just fall over dead. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Especially on nights like that when it's so cold, dude.
Oh, yeah. Well, we talk about this quite a bit, but the buck I shot on November 23rd had 0 fat on him and was pretty much a solid bruise whenever you skinned him. Mm-hmm. And you're talking about a week later, like, is that deer in better condition? Doubtful,
Yeah, I don't
know how they... That deer that I shot, I don't know how he wasn't like, I don't care at all about that grunt call. I'm going to find something to eat. Mm-hmm. Like, they just have a will to reproduce.
Yeah. It's crazy that they're created that way and that they can do those things, but blew my mind. And then like for the next 30 minutes, he did stop a little bit, but he chased quite a bit in there, nosed around for like 30 minutes, rattled at him. And I watched video today as I'm editing of does just looking right at me like he can hear it re-ratting clearly. And I didn't think they could hear me. And
buck
that
don't
buck
care.
never cared one bit, dude. Gosh. I don't think I've called a deer in since that late November 2018 hunt where we grunted 2 bucks in and didn't kill either one of
That's
them.
the last time you grunted a buck.
Yeah,
Or called in
I
a
think
buck?
that's the last time I called one.
I was
in.
the
Okay, so I did miss a buck last year that ignored me for like 5 minutes and then all of a sudden just appeared behind me.
Well, further in the story, you call in a deer.
Do I?
Yeah, a youngin.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right. So anyway, so it was a good evening, man. It was like one of them. Like I've been kind of cabin fever, hold up. It was good to have that rest though. So like I had good energy, and then you go out on a sunny day where it's like probably in the upper 20s. It's cool, really cool, and there's snow everywhere. It's just kind of a different experience, for a dude from Texas.
Man, if it's upper 20s and it's not super windy and you got plenty of clothes, it's a nice day in the tree stand.
It was fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and seeing all the pheasant. They came and ate that grass right in front of me.
No shots?
I wasn't going to shoot. No, that's a good way to lose your last day 6. Like I'm talking about, send that sucker to China.
It is a Chinese ringneck pheasant.
That's right. Just bury
He's
that
gonna
dude
go
back
home
where he came from.
like a carrier
Go to
pigeon.
your origins. So anyway, no, I didn't shoot one or shoot at one, but it was cool because I got some cool footage, and so I'm going to definitely put that in there. I don't care if y'all want to watch it or not, but it's going to be in there. And then the next morning I woke up and it was 2. Which is
Not 2 a.m.
No.
2 degrees.
Yes. So it's funny because if I was like it was like 35, then people know I'm talking about temperature. When I say 2, they're like that could be so many different things.
Is this wind chill or is this actual?
No, this is not how you speak in Minnesota. This is how
the
you
real
speak
deal,
when
huh?
you're from Texas.
Okay.
You talk about actual temps, okay?
Yeah.
We don't say it's freaking
It's
117.
it's 127 outside today, guys.
Yeah. It's like, no, it's 105, I know the humidity is really high too, but if you want to talk about heat index, then you say heat indexed in front of it. No, it was 2. Yeah, it was 2. I don't know what the wind chill was, but I can almost guarantee you it was negative. And I went in, got in kind of late, wasn't super driven. Snow was thick, and so like walking in, you're just like breathing hard, dude, just like fat style, like I've been eating so many cookies because at that point we had already celebrated so many deer throughout the year.
I've had a celebration problem this year.
Dude, we've been celebrating.
But
and, yeah.
I've started my starvation mode earlier this year. I really didn't eat much till supper today, so
That sounds terrible.
It wasn't too bad. Drink
Yeah.
coffee. Coffee fills me up pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah.
I still don't have like a huge appetite like I feel like I used to. I don't know if COVID did that to you or what.
Maybe.
But excuse me. So anyway, hunted and saw like 5 does, and I'm just talking about this trip because it's cool. The next trip I went up there, very similar circumstance where we got snowed in a little bit, but I was able to. When was the next trip? I can't even remember what all I saw on the next trip. But
That's the time that you did some rattling, I think. No, that was this last trip.
yeah, I went again in like
I
mid-December.
don't think y'all stayed very long.
Yeah, we didn't. We didn't stay very long. I can't remember what all I saw. I'd have to go back through and edit the footage to understand, which was why I like filming or whatever. But it was not very good. We had some snow and super cold again, and had some I guess some ice issues and stuff. So anyway, we came back, and then we decided after Christmas that we'd go up one more time. And
when you say after Christmas, you mean like
after
the
the
morning of the 26th, early.
yeah, after
texting
official
you-
Christmas,
Yeah, I
not
was
after all my Christmases.
Yeah, exactly. I was texting you like, hey, you want to go out on some Texas pub? And you're like, I'm in Kansas. Like, dude, what?
I'm in a tree right now. Yeah,
we still got stockings on the
yeah.
mantle.
We left out, which I did 3 Christmases on Christmas Day. So as you can see, I have been very busy.
Yeah.
Very tired too. But yeah, we did those 3 Christmases, and then I wasn't going to leave that day actually. And my wife, her family has had their Christmas on like the 27th or something, and she was like, "Hey, I know you would like to go back to Kansas. You don't have to go if you don't want to this Christmas. And I was like, are you sure? And so
this one of these times I'm supposed to say, no, babe, it's okay.
no, she doesn't do that to me, luckily. But we took off, and it paid off, because basically I'm trying to think again. I have had such a hard time. Like my mental, just I don't even know how. Like I can't, because it's not working right now. Like I can't even figure out the word that I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. But like the way that my brain works is not very efficient.
You're a little incoherent.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
cognitive abilities.
Yeah, my cognitive abilities.
That's what I've been saying is my cognitive abilities. I feel better now, but about a week ago, during all the Christmas stuff, I was like, I am dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Like,
can't talk.
Yeah. Can't talk, can't write, can't remember nothing.
For real, dude.
Guys, in youth class tonight, we're singing. It's a singing night, okay?
yeah. But by the way, you want to lead? So what I need to do is like, I wish I had some. Oh, okay. Let me go through my phone as I tell the story maybe, and it'll remind me of some stuff. But that first evening was when you texted me and I said I'm in a tree or whatever. I felt good about it, man. I had a good wind, and it was actually windy when I was setting up, which was key because I had to break. Like, I dropped my saw when we hunted with Hunter, which I forgot we hadn't talked about that, But like, yeah. So I think I dropped my saw out there, and I didn't have it in my pack, and I was so mad because I was about to hunt the bushiest hackberry you've ever seen. That's like 16 foot tall and 16 foot wide, just limbs everywhere. And I'm like, this is the spot though, because it had like three big trunks that are almost the size of me coming out of, a spot that was like 5 foot up. And I was like, I can actually blend in really well right there, not far off the ground, and see over all this grass and everything. Anyway, so I ended up seeing a buck, and I could tell he was a buck because he was kind of nosing around. He got up in the middle of the field. He's like bedded by a piece of farm equipment or something out there in the middle of this field. And I could tell he's a buck, so I rattled at him, didn't even think he'd hear me hardly, and that sucker came running. But big old toad 1-year-old. I know that sounds weird to say, but just a 1.5 that's like going to be a stud, big white antlered dude, and he came to like 5 yards and looked at me.
Do you think that there's something with those younger deer up there having white antlers, or is it just different deer? Because I feel like every deer 2 years old and younger has like ghost white antlers. And then the older ones will have kind of that more amber type color or whatever.
I wonder if like because their antlers are thinner, they like bleach through and through or something.
Yeah, like they're less dense because they're smaller. And I don't know.
I don't know either. But yeah, that's a good thought. It's like after about 2 or 3 years old, you don't see a whole lot of just bleach whites like that, man. So I don't know. It's cool. It's cool though. It's good, something to think about. Maybe we need to get a guest on and talk about it. But anyway, rattled him to like 5 yards, and he went on, and not a whole lot happened. The next morning, I can't remember what exactly happened. I don't even know. Like, I feel like that we had some snow come in or something, maybe, because I feel like there was another snow happening, but I don't know. I'm looking at like my pictures right now. And I'm trying to figure this out.
That's what happens when you kill 5 deer in a season that all runs together and you can't keep up with it.
Yeah, let's see. So that was on the 27th. And then let's see. Yeah, so the next morning, I don't think I hunted for some reason. I cannot remember why. I have to watch the video to remember why.
It was something funny.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what happened next morning, but the next evening, maybe I was just trying to like give myself an opportunity to branch out pretty far from where we normally hunt.
Yeah, sleep in, mask out, and prepare to.
And that's what I did. And so I went to a general area that's near where you shot your buck, and so what was good about that is, and some of the takeaways that I have from this hunt were that like you had been there, and so like anytime you map scout something, I feel like you always there are several questions that are like could really help you out if you just could know the answer to them, and you just can't because you haven't been there or whatever. But you had, so there was like some questions that I had that were really that you were able to answer that were like really helpful. Gave me a foot up as I'm like going in there and thinking about how to boot scout this thing quickly and then hang a stand and get ready. So basically, I go in, and did we talk about the valve stem issue on the podcast?
I don't think we did. I don't know for sure, but just to recover here, not recover, cognitive abilities.
Maybe recover though.
Recover it, cover it again. So, if you remember, I was unsure about the shot on my deer and had to leave him overnight. And got back to the truck very late, and then had a flat tire. Had to change a flat tire. And I was like, what's wrong with this? How did I get this flat? And I went to look, and my valve stem was messed up. It wasn't really cut, but
looked like somebody just kicked the mess out of it.
Yeah, or a dog chewed on it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Because that's not just something that you walk away from your truck and it hasn't happened, and then you walk back and it has that. Like if that happens, you have a flat instantly, and you're in the truck when it happens.
Yeah.
So
also,
I was like very suspicious of some foul play at this point in time.
Also, how does a valve stem just naturally have something happen? Like they put it there for a reason in the spot that it is. You know
exactly.
What I mean?
Yeah, it's the most vulnerable thing. It's like, why is your heart in the middle of your chest cavity?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's away from the dangerous stuff.
Right,
You know?
right.
They don't put it out there on your wrist.
Yeah.
God.
So, so that's something that we were a little bit worried about. And so you suggested that I might be able to put a trail camera on my truck, essentially. And so I did before I left.
Public land's cutthroat, guys, just so you know.
Yeah.
Like, we don't go too far off on the we're bad to the bone because we hunt public land, because we're not. That's not something that makes you cool, right? It's just something that happens. But there are some people out there that are jerks.
Yeah,
that hunt public land.
I mean, if they
hunt around it or whatever,
if they can get you to not hunt by their ranch, on that piece of public, and hunt by somebody else's ranch on a different piece or on that other side of that public or whatever, I mean, they're gonna sometimes do that. Especially if you're hunting near somebody who likes to hunt. You know what I mean? like, so anyway, I put a trail camera on my truck before I left out, and I hung it up kind of high so that hopefully if somebody saw it, they wouldn't be able to get to it very easily. And anyway, I put one of the Exodus lifts on there because I knew that the range would be good, so I could put it kind of far off, and it would still pick up. And so anyway, I go in and work down this kind of creek system or whatever on this property, and end up. I talk about this in my interview, my wrap-up interview in my video. I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff, but I'm going to just go ahead and talk about it here on the podcast because Brian Broderick says it's a different audience. So I go in, I see pretty good sign like from the get-go as I'm going in, and as a public land hunter, and even like really just in the past when I hunted a lot of private or for deer, pretty much exclusively private in the past, my dad kind of taught me this, and I saw it also come to fruition, that like the further you are away from people, the better the deer hunting is going to be. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like that's where the deer are. They're farther away from people. That's where the big bucks are, So like going in, I'm like, man, if I could just get to here, I feel far enough away from the parking area that I feel like I could be in some big deer. You know what I mean? And so when you look at it and you think about this property, you think the deer are going to come from the deepest in there towards the road at night or whatever, which, you know, it's just a thing that you have. When I look at it now, obviously now I know that that's not 100% true, but I don't also think that deer are just hanging out in the parking area either.
Yeah,
you know
sure.
what I mean? So,
well, this whole time you're on X and like looking at trails that are on the map and kind of making your plan according to those trails leading to food sources.
yeah.
Right?
Well, exactly. I mean, exactly. That's like one area I could see a lot of trails going to a food source. And I'm like, man, it's not very far from the road, you know? And you and I kind of talked about some stuff, talked about a few areas. And so anyway, I work down pretty far and it's like pretty quiet in there. I mean, there's probably like a 10 plus mile an hour wind, but like, you know, in where I was at in that kind of creek bottom area with the trees and around and stuff like that, it's pretty quiet in there. So like I'm walking slow and I got out pretty early and, so I felt like I had time. So I walk slow, take my time, stop every few steps, look around, try to find a little bit of sign, get way back in there. And I'm like, man, the sign is not very good here. And then I start looking at the map and I'm like, golly, like, you know, if a deer is gonna, like, this creek is big enough that like crossings are a deal on it, you know? It's not like it's not like they couldn't cross anywhere in there, but there are different spots where they're going to want to cross. And it had been so cold in Kansas all December that there was like a lot of that creek was frozen. And so like a deer wouldn't probably cross that because it was frozen enough that, I mean, it was not frozen enough that like if they stepped on it, they probably would go through it. You know what I mean? So like it just becomes difficult for a deer to cross through the ice, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm thinking this area that I'm at doesn't really have a crossing. Haven't seen a crossing in a little bit. I didn't walk right beside the creek on the way in either, and kind of walked out in this, you know, grass field and stuff like that, and was like not able to see what was going on down there and where the creek crossings were exactly. But I knew that like recently it wasn't there. And then I thought, well, like all my thoughts about them coming from deeper in, kind of all of a sudden I get in there and I'm like, man, I just don't think there's enough habitat further back in there, or at least, you know, as much habitat as what I've got right here. And it just goes against like everything inside of you to think, well, I just walked right past a bunch of good stuff and now I'm going to go back in there and try to hunt that good stuff. And on an afternoon hunt, you're thinking if deer are bedded anywhere close that are going to get to me, they're bedded right there. They probably heard me, saw me, smelled me, whatever, you know. And I've already left a bunch of ground scent in there too, you know. It just doesn't feel right. But as I'm looking at everything, and you know, I'm not trying to attribute this to me being the best hunter. I'm just attributing this to me having a lot of experience, just being blessed to be able to hunt a lot. Right. Something in my gut just said that the best move was to go back, and I can tell you a little bit of logic related to that as well. There was I guess you could call it like a. It's not. I mean, oxbow is a almost overkill word, you know, but like a little bend in the creek.
We call them creek horns, right? And
there's like a creek horn or whatever that created a almost like a little island of timber up against the creek. You know, there's trees and brush, there's Russian olives, there's cedars in there, so it's real thick right there, and I could see that on the map. And then I could see that the creek looked like it would run pretty low right there beside it. And what you get a lot of times when you get around these oxbows or these creek horns is you do get shallow water. The reason that it bows out like that is because the land becomes flat right there. And so the creek just goes, it doesn't need to go straight. It's going slow so it can go anywhere. And it ends up making this big kind of oxbow or whatever, which in turn, you typically have a shallow spot where a deer can cross in there. So I started thinking about that, looking at the map and thinking, man, you know, it's back closer to those trails. It wouldn't have been hunting those trails, but it's back closer to a lot of trails where we had seen on the map and kind of questioned ourselves. So, you know, hopefully I'm not like stuttering around making this too difficult to understand or even too long, but basically I go back over there, work my way back, and it's starting to feel late at this time. It's overcast, but like, it's really not that late. So I go find the tree, and the tree ends up being a big, big willow. And I got up in it, and I'm set up over a creek crossing that comes straight out of that island of woods and junk and brush and stuff. And so I'm like, man, it looks good. I don't know what's going to happen, but it comes straight out of there, crosses a creek, and then there's 2 scrapes on the trail, on one of the trails that comes out of there, and one of them's at 5 yards. And the trail goes right past me here, and I'm going to hopefully get a shot there. And there's other trails in there and stuff too, and a lot of grassland out in front of me that's, gives me some opportunities and stuff. And so I'm like, feels good. And the only thing I didn't like is that I had already gone through there or whatever, So I'm set up, and I'm set up to shoot. I'm still set up with like this mentality that like deer are still going to come from deep in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I put my platform on the right side of the tree to shoot deer coming from that direction, even though the wind is very, very iffy and blowing that direction essentially. And so it's like, I just couldn't get over it, still. And so I set my platform up like that, but I still had shots to a lot of stuff. So I do this interview and I talk about my setup, everything I just told you with the creek crossing, scrapes, whatever. As soon as I do the interview, my next thought is to get, and it's still like probably, I don't know, maybe 3:30. And my next thought is I'm going to get a couple of shots to show what's around me, and just so that people can kind of get the setting, right? So I take a shot, wide angle of kind of what's out here, I guess, to the east. And then I move it over, and I'm like, there's the creek crossing. I zoom in and press record, and I lean over and look at my screen, let the camera stop moving. And all of a sudden, I'm like, there's a buck in the creek crossing right there.
Craziest thing, dude.
I was like, I couldn't believe my eyes for a second. It took me 3 seconds to believe that there was actually a deer. Like, I kept leaning over, like, no, oh, it's a buck. And so, like, this dude comes in. It's the coolest footage, man. Like, he's, like, creeping through this water, like, real quiet and everything.
This is cold. This is cold. This is cold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's not really caring, like, to be quiet or anything. He's just freezing. But it's like a shooter buck. It's a shooter 8, For me, this late in the season and everything, I'm like, man,
yeah,
this is awesome.
Kansas has no January days.
Yeah.
So your clock's ticking hard.
It's coming down, man.
Yeah.
So he starts coming across this creek crossing. I mean, when I first see him, he's like 50 yards, and so he's coming slowly towards me.
Which on a deer that big is close.
Yeah.
Like, I saw an East Texas buck at 80 yards, and I was like, is that a deer? Like in Kansas, 50-yard deer, you're like, can I shoot that deer right now?
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
For real. And so he's coming at me, whatever, but he's coming super slow. So I'm like, okay. So now, because my dumb self has set my platform on the wrong side of the tree, I'm like, I got to turn back around, get my bow. Then I realize, I think I realized at this time, but at some point before I shot the deer, I realized that I have the AAE fletching arrow on the wrist, not the day 6 fletching arrow on the wrist. So in other words, the arrow that's quite possibly going to lose a fletching when I shoot it.
Is that one messed up?
No, but like every AAE fletched arrow I've shot has lost a fletching at some point.
Good.
This year.
Those are the ones I did. So.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make you feel bad, but I knew you knew that they were coming off on some of
Well, that
those
was
shots.
also my first batch of arrows to ever fletch on my own. So I've gotten better at it.
Yeah,
so,
sure. I've got one day 6 though, and so I know that those are going to stay on there.
Yeah.
And so like
you make sure you
I put the wrong one on there.
Yeah.
When I literally like had just set up, I hadn't arranged anything. And so this dude's coming at me, and like finally I kind of get my bow around, I get my GoPro on, all this stuff, and he gets like 30 and he's just standing there. It's just like one of them deals, I guess, where he just woke up out of his bed and he's just got nowhere to go, And it took him forever. And he's standing there like 30 yards for forever. I don't even know how much good footage I got because he's through several, like, I don't know what kind of trees they were. I can't remember if they're hackberries or what, but they're in there, bushy. So stands there for a long time. When I first saw him and I turned around to get my bow, I saw a deer running back behind me at like 150 yards. I saw it run real quick through the brush. And I was like, dadgummit, they're chasing back there. but I have a shooter buck in front of me. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to pay attention to this. Well, he comes over 30 yards and stands. He's probably been in my life for 10 minutes or maybe even a little more. And then all of a sudden I hear like a and they're running down this creek towards me and this buck from the direction that I heard. And so I'm like, oh my goodness. So I like cut my eyes over, and I can see like a doe run through. I can hear more coming. I'm like, there's about to be a shooter right here. You know what I mean? But they're on the opposite side of the creek. So they're still going to end up at like 40, 45 yards, not giving me a whole lot of shots or anything, but I can see. They come through. I can't tell what is going on other than that there's a shooter buck chasing. I don't know what he is exactly. They bust through there, and this dude is, of course, looking at him the whole time. They have no clue this other deer is in the world, and they go by him, and then they end up like coming down by the creek crossing, and my buck starts like grunting and going back towards the creek crossing. I'm like, no, don't do that, going away from me. And all of a sudden, a big, possibly 8-point, I think we decided maybe.
Yeah.
Comes out in the creek crossing.
Toad.
It's the one that we thought was a 5-point from your hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that you had seen.
Weird, man.
From the parking area.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's in there. And so I'm like, you can tell the main beam is kind of weird on one side. I'm almost 100% sure that's that deer.
Mm-hmm. And he looks a lot different.
Yeah, he does, dude.
He's lost some weight.
Lots.
Yeah. He's
not the swole neck that he was in November, a month prior or whatever, but just a big deer, like a good deer. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, please come over here. Doe comes into the creek. They're going crazy, dude. Anyway, they all finally, even there's a doe standing in the creek and a buck on the other side away from me. And I'm like, this is perfect. He's going to put his nose down. She's going to bust right up through this trail. He's going to follow her behind her and I'm going to smoke him. And she just all of a sudden just goes right back at the buck and then zips by him and they go chasing. I'm like, oh.
I thought the buck that's close ran at her. And that's what ran them off.
No, a yearling. They did. They all ran off, but then they a few of them came back, and one of those does, I think it was the yearling doe, stood in the creek, and she's set up to come right to me. Just goes back the other way. It was just nuts. Things going everywhere, but nothing coming right by me. They're not coming within 35 yards of me or so. And so, everything got quiet for all of 60 seconds or whatever, and I'm like, daggone, it's over, and then all of a sudden, you're on the other side of the creek, going in that crossing, 2 bucks. One's a little one, and one's like a heavy 8-point with a broken G3, and I'm like, if you follow us on social media, you know what's about to happen. And so he works through real slow, and I get my arrow switched out and everything. I pretty much haven't had a spare second yet. like I said, it got quiet for a minute, and I was kind of like, it's over, and I'm looking, and nothing happens, and then this happens. And so, this buck ends up coming, working real slowly down the trail, and, I don't even know if he was part of that chasing party or not. I don't know if he knew what was going on. Mm-hmm. But he comes down the trail, and he hits the first scrape at probably 25 yards. Can't shoot him because there's just a bunch of trees in the way, down this scrape line or whatever. He hits that thing, works it. I think I get some footage. And then he starts coming again. He's working so slow, dude, to the point where, and it's real quiet, man. Like I said, it's gotten real quiet and still. And it's late December, so there's no cover on anything, Luckily, where my platform is, I'm actually in line with the tree on the front side of it. So, we'd like to be on the back side of it, but I'm on the front side of it in line with it.
Kind of like a standard tree stand type situation.
Yes, yeah. And so, anyway, he comes to the scrape at 5 yards, starts working it, hitting his antlers on it. I think I got some good footage of him there too, and he looks right up at me, dude, through the branches. I'm like, is game over? He's about to bust. And he looks back down and starts working that scrape again, man. And I was just like, this is insane. So now he's like so close. And if he follows that trail, he comes within 1 yard of my tree.
Scary.
So he's like, I'm not sure if I need to face him right now or if I need to turn back around. And so I'm thinking about it. I'm looking at kind of the limbs and stuff. I'm like, I got to turn a 180 to get a shot at this deer as he goes by me. And then I can't let him get too far by me or the wind will get him. And so I work so slowly and I get her turned around, and he's there like 5 yards. I'm only moving when I can hear him walking because otherwise I don't know. I feel like he might be looking at me. And so my left leg, like I've got my right leg's on the platform and my left leg's on my step. So it's just a thin step where I like ball my foot's on it, and my leg is shaking so bad, dude. My left leg is just.
It's funny how like if you get in a situation where one of your legs isn't locked all the way, it's like that knee goes to bouncing,
dude, bouncing hard. You're like, how am I not being seen right now, dude? It's like, just I wish y'all could see, how it looks.
Working the hi-hat hard.
Yes, exactly, dude. Exactly. So, I like at one point he stopped walking as I'm moving, whatever, and so I got to stop, and I stop, and my leg starts going, and I'm like, he's looking right at me. I know he is. He has to be looking right at me, and then he starts moving again. So I get turned around finally, and I get the camera kind of pulled around beside me. I'm like, okay, I filmed the buck on my property. I got him in film, or I got him on camera getting shot. His antlers aren't in there. He's out of focus. I'm like, can I do it better? Can I do it better? Please, Other than that, like everything else has been off camera pretty much. And so I'm like, I'm going to make this happen. And get the camera like right here, kind of just barely in front of me. And all of a sudden I kind of see him coming out. And he's actually like gained some distance from me and kind of going down a trail closer to the creek. And so I get the camera pointed right in the gap, and it's like, it's money. When I went back and watched it, I was like, money in the bank. Well, I thought that my bridge lifted the camera up whenever I leaned back to shoot him. But when I drew back, I ended up just donking the lens straight backwards. So it's looking right into my armpit, And I'm like, I couldn't believe it, But anyway, he comes out and he's walking just perfectly broadside, and I guessed him right off the bat, top pin. And then I start thinking about it, and I'm like, because I hadn't ranged anything because I didn't have time. And I start thinking about maybe he's probably like 23. Like it's so easy to underrange them in open country, And so I held my 20 high, which was dumb, dude. Oh, so dumb, dude. And I quickly pulled the trigger. I grunt stopped him, and pulled the trigger. So he probably did jump string a touch, for whatever that's worth. And it hits high. Immediately I'm like, high. But when he turns and runs away, it's a good angle because technically the deer was like 16 or 18 yards. So pretty steep, because I was pretty high up in that willow. And so I thought, man, I might have got him. He runs off, crosses the creek. And as he's going around this corner of these cedar trees, I thought I saw him stumble. And I'm like, dadgummit, dude. I think I just smoked him. And so get all my stuff ready, call my dad, and let everybody know.
It's like 4:30, too.
Dude, I probably shot him at like 4:05.
When you called, I was like,
yeah,
what's going on?
Yeah. And so anyway.
Which context, if you haven't done much hunting really late in the year, it's usually right at last light whenever you're seeing deer to shoot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get all my stuff packed or pulled down, packed up, and do like my interview and everything. And then I start, basically go to where he was standing. I find his tracks where he wheeled and turned out, follow him to the creek, find blood about right at the creek. And I'm like, oh, dude, this is good, and it's pretty good blood. Goes across the creek, I find more blood, and it's pretty good blood for like 40 yards to where I thought he was crashing. And when I get there, the blood trail kind of turns and goes kind of essentially towards like maybe private in the end, what it would end up being towards private, and if he was to go quite a ways, but I'm like, when it turns, I start following it, and I'm like, this is weird. It's like less blood all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not good, because I knew where the hit was. And it's like, man, if you hit high and about 6 inches back off the shoulder, you're probably better than hitting high and right above that elbow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because of the way that lungs angle up in the back. And so, like, if you think about my shot on One-Eyed Jack, like, money shot as far as, like, obviously pretty steep shot, but, like, it looks like high and back, but, like, that's where
him fall.
The lungs the lungs touch the spine back there, So anyway, I start following this weak blood trail, and I go a long ways essentially, and we're getting close to private. And I'm like, this is not good. I don't want to do this. Get to the fence essentially, and it's like I don't even see where he crossed blood wise, and so I like look up, and all of a sudden something catches my eye, and there's my buck. Had bedded in like a cedar tree out in this open stuff, and was running back towards public. And I'm like, awesome, but not, kind of, like I wish he was just dead right here, like 15 yards on this other fence, so I could just call and be like, hey, can I grab my buck real quick, But he's headed back to public, and he was bleeding a lot. I could see a lot of blood. And so as soon as he crosses over, something else catches my eye, and I look over, and a coyote, big fluffy one, is dogging him.
Is that the reason he got up? Or are you the reason he got up?
I don't know. I'm going to say the coyote because I don't want to be a dumb hunter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I when I saw lighter blood, I probably should have stopped tracking.
Yeah.
But dude, I was so far away from all
everything.
Help, and familiarity. And I'm sitting there, like I said, getting closer to private and everything. And I'm like, it's daylight. I need to just, if I can't figure something out in the daylight, and then I can't figure something out in the dark, he's going to get eaten by coyotes, you know what I mean, or something, if I have to leave him out here all night. And then,
which I already used up the one token we had for that this
for maybe
year.
our entire career,
exactly.
Whatever, our entire life. But anyway, so like I end up, this deer ends up jumping and the coyote's dogging him. Like, I'm talking honest. I mean, not like he's not close. He's probably 100 yards behind him, but like he is locked in on that deer and chasing full throttle. And he gets to the fence and stops. And so I wave my hands, and I'm like, I'm surprised he didn't see me. You know how wary them suckers are. Like, they see it. You can't even draw back on them in a stand,
Yeah. I've tried to kill a coyote twice in the last month. And dude, okay, caveat, I carry a grade 2 arrow around. It's still a day 6, but it's one that's been through something before. And like, you cannot get your arrow swapped to shoot a coyote.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not happening. They're going to get you.
Yeah.
You're done.
Even if you don't move, like, they'll see your steps. They are crazy wary. But anyway, so like, I'm waving my hands. This sucker doesn't see me. He's so locked in and dialed in on this deer. So I just start, like, I kind of almost do a jumping jack, and he finally looks over at me and then bolts down the fence. And I'm like, I didn't know if because he ended up jumping back in, and I thought, well, maybe he's just going to go over and chase that deer around. Who knows what's going to happen. But long story short, I did bump him off of that deer. And so, like, I kind of worked back in. I try to catch back onto this blood trail where this deer came back onto public. And I'm like, cannot find blood. Walk around for probably about 10 minutes or something. I'm walking slow, working, looking, and all of a sudden at like 65, 70 yards, I see a deer doing a weird thing. And I'm going to try to explain it to y'all, but he looks like what I figure out at some point is that I think he's uncomfortable because of the hit. And so he's like doing this thing where he's like bedded down, but he's like moving. He'll like move left, then right, move left, then right, like 4 times, and then he'll settle back into a spot, and all from the ground, like laying down or whatever. And so this, I'm thinking, like, I can just see his neck basically in his head, And I'm like, is that coyote like grabbing onto him from behind and just
Gosh.
holding him there? Like, you know how they do or whatever?
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe that's what's going on. That coyote's got him pinned there or something. And he's just kind of he's like too weak to like just try to escape or whatever. And so anyway, I start walking up there, and I'm trying to be really quiet and really stealthy. I've got a big cottonwood that I can get between me and him and just go straight at that cottonwood. And so, long story short, I get to like 35 yards. I'm almost to the cottonwood, and every step the deer looks at me, like can hear me. But I'm pretty sure there's no coyote in the picture at this point, and he's just being uncomfortable or whatever. So I like eventually get to the tree, but I cannot move without that deer just like alert right at me. And the last thing I want to do is bump this deer again, because I'm already so lucky to have seen this deer and caught him catch my attention with his movement and whatever else. And so I get I'm just basically just looking out at him every once in a while, just seeing like, is he still hanging in there? What's he doing? I'm trying to move little by little, and it's hardly working. Because the thing is, my only shot is from the left side of this cottonwood. I have to clear the left side of this cottonwood. I don't want to step behind. I don't want to step back from the cottonwood, because then I'm making a pretty long shot for myself. So I want to get to the cottonwood and then dip out around the side of it, so it's a straight up 30-yard shot. And to do that requires several steps, because as a right-hander, I'm going around the left side of the tree. I have to clear the tree quite a bit and stand out from it. That way I have a shot through these cedar limbs that I can see him through. And so I sit there for a long time. Dude, you know what it looks like in there? Deer are walking like within bow range of me all evening.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah. Like, there were several times where I would be looking at that buck, and he would go alert, but not looking at me. And I would turn my head, and there'd be a spike behind me. Had no clue I was there at 15 yards walking, back towards the parking area.
What if the toad 8-point was
scary? I started thinking about it. I was like, okay, don't be an idiot here. Don't be an idiot, It's like, but for real, like, could you just kill him real quickly, instead of messing with this deer that you might not kill? No, I really wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I know,
but I definitely thought about it. I was like, what if?
There's the human side of you that's always like, well,
yeah, exactly.
I could one up. I could, what do they call it in bass fishing? Where you're
culling.
Yeah, you're high something. High.
Yeah, what is it? Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
High grading.
Upgrading.
High grading.
Yeah, high grading. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I definitely thought about it, but I had like 3 different deer come by me.
That's cool.
That evening as I'm standing there, and
yeah.
So what happens is it's getting pretty late, and I'm like, man, I need to just try to get a shot right before dark, right before shooting light, And
his condition is slowly dwindling too, right?
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, so
he's pretty much been the same.
Yeah,
but he does not look like he's going to live through the night.
Yeah.
What it ends up being, and I could pretty much have told you this from when I shot, was a 1 lung, which is like, it's crazy how long they can live on that 1 lung. You know what I mean? Like I think you'd almost rather hit them in the liver, just to get them to stop and to get them to, go out quickly. But anyway, I'm like praying the whole time. I'm like, man, just, I'm just like, just, if it's in your will, please just let me kill this thing so that it's not sitting there suffering all night or getting eaten by coyotes,
ripped apart,
or whatever. Like, and so, I'm the whole time I'm behind the tree, I'm kind of doing that kind of thing and kind of beating myself up about not making a good shot and everything. And I mean, I was good left and right, but just thought it was 23 instead of 16 or whatever. And end up, in all honesty, like, I should, even if it was 23, it's like, shoot your 20 where it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? It's just one of those deals, man. If you've never self-filmed a public land buck that was at 5 yards from you a few seconds before, and you got your back to him, just your mind goes haywire.
There ain't enough time for woosah.
No, there ain't. There ain't. So anyway, I it's getting to like, there's like 8 minutes before shooting light, and it's overcast, so it's real dark. But I can see him still, just fine. I like to shoot him or whatever. But like sometimes on a sunny day out in open country in Kansas or whatever, or wherever you might hunt, South Dakota, like you could shoot like almost a half hour after official shooting light is over.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Just because that's the ability you have with seeing your pins and stuff. But not today. Like it was going to be over at shooting light no matter what. And so I was getting to where the ability to shoot was dwindling as well, physically. So all of a sudden, about several thousand geese get up from an ag field nearby and start to fly around over the top and go to roost. And it's loud. And I'm like, that's my cue right there.
That's cool.
And I literally just took like 4 steps, real slow or whatever, got around the side of the tree, and I had ranged him a few times throughout, sitting there just to make sure I knew what I was shooting or whatever. And so I draw back. He's at 30. I draw back, and I just like woosawed because I had some time to think about it. I was like, do not mess this up. Like, this is your shot. This is what you've been provided. So I take a deep breath, and I just halfway out, and I just take my time and shoot right. I mean, he's basically facing straight at me, and it goes in. Well, sorry, I see the arrow leave, and then it's just too dark. I can't tell after about 10 yards where the arrow is going. Sounds like it hits a log. I mean, it sounds just like I hit a big log on the ground, and the deer just flips over feet up. And I'm like, what in the world? This is crazy. Turns out, smoked him right in the chest, went through all the good stuff, and I think I ended up hitting spine, or I know I did, hit spine.
Like around his hips back in there?
Yeah, I'm not even quite that far, but back there a little ways.
Yeah.
And it just killed him like that. I mean, he literally just went straight feet up, man, and like, but I walked pretty much over to him within a half a minute, and he would breathe like every 2 minutes, just like a reactionary kind of deal, like he was toast. It was crazy.
That's weird.
And so I just watched him for a second, and kind of took it all in, and then I thought, you know what? Don't want to mess it up. I'm just going to go back to the truck, and I'm going to call my dad, see if he's headed this way, and see if he can help me out, and that kind of thing. So I leave the deer, and I walk back to my truck. And when I get to the truck, I put all my stuff down, kind of not directly by the truck, but like close to it and kind of hidden a little bit, some kind of grass and stuff or whatever. And because I'm like, I don't know, I just always, you and I have talked about this before, but like when we're around roads, like we just would rather not get creeped on. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So,
and it doesn't matter if you have a public platform like us or not.
Yeah.
Like, just in certain scenarios, the less interaction you can have with other people, the better when you're hunting public land.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be shysters about anything.
No,
It's just the way.
I just
the
don't
less
want
information you have to divulge, the better.
Right. Like I'm not going to lie to people.
Yeah.
And so if they ask me a question, me trying to figure out how to tell the truth, but not tell them what they, why they need to be in there hunting as well,
Yeah.
like that's a great way for them to just hate me. You know what I mean? Because they're going to be able to tell that I'm not, like I'm trying to figure out how to, they're going to think I'm lying, and I'm going to be essentially just not telling them the whole story, or whatever, but not lying to them. And so it's just so difficult, man. It's a situation I don't love. So anyway, I set my stuff down in like the grass beside, kind of off the side or whatever. And I'm going to go pull my camera real quick. And so I start to walk down to the camera, and I see headlights probably like 3/4 of a mile away coming. And I'm like, okay, well, if they turn and come down this way, then I guess I'll just, hide and let them go by or whatever. So left my camera, I didn't go get my camera quite yet. And I end up seeing that truck turn. And so I kind of jogged down to this cottonwood tree and some brush or whatever, probably like 50 yards from my truck, and stand there, wait till this thing goes by. Well, he slows down and stops right beside my truck, which is my dad's truck, because we went up there in his truck. And so he stops by my truck or by my dad's truck and just sits there. And I'm like, now I'm like, when you know that thing we said earlier about how I'm like no help is around, I'm really feeling it at this point. You know, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is not where I want to be right now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want this guy to get out and start looking around. So I'm standing there, and he just sits there for like 2 minutes, not doing anything. And then all of a sudden, the cargo lights come on. So he's opened up his door, and he gets out, and I can't really see him. And I hear the door handle jog. He tries my door handle. And I'm like, what in the world is going on right now? And then it sounds like he's like kicking my tire. And of course, the only thing I can think about is somebody kicked the mess out of your tire valve stem and gave you a flat, and that's what he's doing to my truck too.
Did you look at yours? Did it look like that had happened at all?
I hadn't looked at it. I did find out later on that he had put a note on my windshield under my windshield wiper, and so I kind of wondered, trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, if that's what he was doing, instead of giving me a flat tire or whatever. And that's what I heard. But at the time, I thought he's doing something to my tire, and then he gets right back in his truck and takes off, and about 100 yards down the road, pulls into a turn in and cuts his lights. And at that point, I have to make some decisions, and I need to make them quickly. And I'm thinking, if he's trying to like be a murderer out here, he has a couple of seconds to get his stuff together, get out the truck, and try to set up on a dude coming out of the woods, right? So my brain immediately makes an assertive decision to run to my truck, leave all my stuff out there, run to my truck, hop in, turn it on. So as I'm running up there, I unlock it, give myself, I don't want to like alert him too early. So I pick the right time, I unlock it, I hop in my truck, turn it on, put it in drive. He immediately starts his truck up, whips back out, and comes down the road at me. And so I'm like, okay, well, at least he's not shooting me yet, you know? And so he comes up beside me and says something along the lines of like, I suggest you never come back here again, and points his finger at me as he pulls up right in my face. And I at this point, I had already pulled my dad's 9mm out of the console and unbuckled it, and I'm like ready for something to happen, you know. And because dude, this is the Wild West, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they could bury you out there, and there's a chance nobody ever finds out what happens to you. You know,
Coyotes clean bodies up quick out there.
yeah, it's true. We know that, don't we?
Yeah.
So
Deer.
Yeah, deer bodies. Deer bodies.
That's what we know.
That's what we're talking about here. Of course, most of you got that.
Yeah.
So anyway, he says that to me, and I said, "Oh yeah," and he goes, "Yeah," and I said, "I have every right to be out here." And as I'm saying it, he is whipping down the road. He does not want me like I think he realizes that I know, you know, that like, hey, I'm not just some like novice out here. Like, I know that I have the ability to hunt public lands, man, you know? And so, like, I think he wanted to scare me with, you know, thinking that I'm hunting somebody's private acreage or whatever, you know? And so he doesn't want me out there apparently. And he whips off. And so I turn around and take off after him. Cause I'm like, I don't know what I should do. Should I call a cop? Should I call a game warden? What do I do? Yeah. And so I take off after him. Well, he turns around, you know, 100 yards down the road and starts going back the other way. So I turn around and follow him. And I followed him for probably like 5 miles down these roads. He's trying to get it. He's trying to get away from me, you know. At this point, I think he's pretty scared that I am going to call the cops or whatever. And so
you kind of did the whole skunk thing where like you scare a skunk and he like scares you back, you know?
yeah. It's like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Well, let's just look at each other for a little bit. And so he ends up like pulling into he had you know, some farm equipment basically, and he ends up pulling in like he's going to dump this farm equipment, like backs in. And so at this point, I'm like, I stop like a few hundred yards back, but we're the only ones out here in
The Wild West.
The Wild West. So like, it's not like he doesn't know that I'm there, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like 200 yards away. Well, at this point, I'm also thinking, you know what? I know a lot of guys in Texas that carry a thermal in their truck. I really don't want to get a thermal shot right now. You know what I mean? And like, I can't see if he's got a rifle hanging out his window or what.
Dude, you played way too much GoldenEye back in the day.
Yeah, for real. So I take off and I go past him. Well, then he just pulls out behind me and runs about a quarter mile behind me for like 2 miles and then cuts his lights. And I'm assuming he turns into his homestead or something. And he just didn't want me to see which way he was turning or whatever. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I just kind of left it alone, and went into town and got my dad. But I'm also thinking, I'm like, well, I got to go back and get my stuff. I've got like several $1,000s laying on the ground out there right now, including cameras and bags and everything else. So I go back over there and get that stuff real quick. And I'm like kind of like freaked out a little bit, put all my stuff in, go meet my dad. We come back out and like at this point we're both on edge, And like I said, the thermal thing is just the weirdest thing to think about, because like, they see you, but you don't see them. They're in the dark. They ain't got to shine a flashlight or spotlight on you or nothing. It's just a weird thing to think about, man. And so we go in, get my deer, and do a little quick video. I gut him, drag him out, because I didn't have a game cart because I'm an idiot. I thought about getting the game cart, and then afterwards, you and I talked about it after I shot the deer, We're like, you know what? It makes sense that you should have had the game cart, And I'm like, yeah, I should have, you know. So I just had, when I thought about it before I left, I was like, well, K.C., you might need it, Yeah. But there's just about 150-pound difference in the deer.
Yes, exactly.
that you're hunting and the deer I was hunting. So anyway, I drug the sucker out all the way out, and I was pretty whooped. And we get there, and we kind of like clear the area. My dad had his pistol with him the whole time, It's just like, man. It put such a damper on the evening, man.
Yeah.
It killed the vibe, dude, because I was so stoked. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I was shaking when that deer was coming in. I was shaking after I shot the deer. Super excited. I'm going to go in there and meet my dad and come back in and get the deer, celebrate, do some cool video and all that. And then it turns into, hey, let's do most of our video tomorrow because we need to get this thing out of here before this dude comes back with a gun or something, Mm-hmm. It's just such a frustrating deal,
Yeah.
But it was a great night. It was a great experience. I was super happy and proud of what happened that night and the decisions I was able to make, and just the blessing, man, to be able to shoot another deer on a tag that I spent a lot of money on and spent a lot of time investment on and effort and everything. And all that said, it was also unfortunate that all that had to kind of be squashed that night,
Yeah. It was like some events that happened in Idaho this year, but real, Yeah.
It
was a shame that there actually are public land harassments going on out there.
Yeah.
But it's all right because you got the deer.
Yeah, got the deer. And then, I guess doing an interview the next day, I was able to think about a lot of good things. So
That's right.
I had a pretty good interview.
Throw it down, right?
Yeah, so it was good. But
it's a heck of a deer, dude. Congratulations! I told you congratulations a lot, but on air, congratulations.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
That's you're run out of fingers at this point in time.
Yeah.
If you find a way to kill another, which will be very hard, by the way, but if you find a way to kill another deer, you're going to have to start on the other hand.
I'm hoping if I kill another deer, it's an axis deer.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That's what I'm hoping.
Cool. That would be nice, man.
You kind of finished out. I know that was a little terribly long story.
It's all right. It's worth it because there's a big deer involved.
There was a big deer involved, and there was some drama and Hatfield and McCoy stuff. But you have been trying to finish strong on Texas Public.
I finished not as strong, but
you had some good hunts.
I had good hunts. I did. I saw deer that were shooters. It's just, let's see.
Which we both, I don't even know, did we talk about, because we both had a pretty good hunt one evening, too, on Texas Pub. I don't even know if we talked about that or not.
I don't know if we have or not, but kind
of plays into the whole thing, though.
Yeah, in short, we found this area of public that was getting no pressure. We'd ran a camera here for a couple years, and there's good deer in there, and I think it's because it's hard to hunt. Nobody hunts it. Well, I went in and hunted it.
Why is it hard to hunt?
Because it is East Texas, and because it's not your typical whitetail habitat. It's creek bottoms with small trees, and that's all there really is. They love it.
Monoculture.
Yeah,
almost.
It almost is a monoculture, but there's a couple habitat transitions in there. But it's really hard to find a tree that's like the typical, let's get 18 feet up in the tree and not be seen by a whitetail. Where it's a whole lot of hanging where you can touch your platform with your hand and getting seen.
And you could get higher, but you wouldn't have shots.
That's right.
It's weird.
Your shots would be like 10 yards.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but making a deer walk within 10 yards of you in a creek bottom is very hard to do because they wander and meander.
It's like a 200-yard DMA.
Yes, exactly. Which plays into our strategy of the next time we went out there, we both went and hung about 60 yards apart and just kind of made a bigger trap for deer pretty much. And it kind of worked, except we didn't have a shooter come by. We both had does and small bucks within range, which was a lot of fun, actually, because like there was a time when I saw a buck go to you and I didn't know what he was. It's like, I'm listening for a thwack right now. You know, like, this is going to be cool. But it didn't happen. And then I continued to push on that property and kind of push deeper and trying to find deer in different spots. Because what was happening is I was slowly burning it out, which I kind of knew. But, you know, it's the last 2 weeks in December. That's what else are you going to do, right?
We talked about that before you burned it out. It was like, hey, if we burn this out, is it over for good or is it just over for this year? You know? And
we kind of think it's just over for the year because there's other places that we hunt that's public land that get a ton of pressure and there's a good deer on those properties every year. So I don't know. Either way, in short, we never saw any of the big mature deer that have been on this property. Now, one of the problems you run into on Texas public, when we say big mature, that usually means 4-year-olds. There's not a lot of old deer because they get shot because there's a ton of hunting pressure. So I think that a couple things happen in late December that make Texas public really difficult. One is that people have had 2.5 months to go shoot deer. So there's just less targets in the woods. Combine that with the fact that I found a shooter dead from roadkill on the property, like one of the bigger deer we had on camera. I found him dead in there about 5 days ago. That was sad. That means like your targets are dwindling quickly. You know, say somebody somewhere else shot one of the deer that you saw or that you had on camera, and then you know one of those bucks is dead on the road. Then you add in like private land around there where people can smoke them with rifles at corn feeders. I heard rifle shots 2 different times while I was in there, and it might be pigs, it might be deer, you don't know. But either way, I feel like truly there is way less animals to actually even shoot at the end of December than there is like early November. Combine that with the fact that deer are stopping their running activity almost completely. Like I did have one time where I'd pushed in deep and I kind of got if I know I'm going to go in and hunt a place, I'll usually multiple times I'll usually let things cool off a little bit after that end of shooting light, because it seems like a lot of times there's a big push of movement at that point in time, and then maybe 10 or 15 minutes after that it's good and dark and you can kind of get down and just do your thing and walk out and not mess with deer too much. Wasn't the case that night. I had a shooter buck run in, chase does underneath my stand and stay there for like 30 minutes, just grunting and going crazy. And I know he's a shooter because I put my flashlight on him. Straight up. I was like, what is that? I want to see what that buck is. And he finally got weird and ran off, and I might have spooked him for good. I don't know, but I never saw him again.
Smelled you said?
Maybe. I don't know. I think what happened is there was another buck that I never saw, but I heard, and so I took my headlamp off of him, and I moved over to this other one, and I think he saw that happen and didn't know what was going on.
Gotcha.
But for the last couple hunts, I zoned in on that area as being the spot because it's a situation where there's a couple secondary creek crossings in there, which is a thing we talk about pretty heavily on Texas Public. You'll have these like situations where deer are moving parallel to a major creek, and they won't willy-nilly cross the secondary creeks anywhere. They have specific trails they'll cross those on. Well, I set up on 2 of those. I could shoot one at like 8 and one at 25. And then there was another couple actually, that I didn't know because I hadn't scouted them out. And that's where the deer ended up moving on. And then I moved in there the last couple hunts and had does come in and bed like pretty much underneath me for an hour on a beautiful cold day. And I was like, okay, if it could happen,
yeah,
here it is. And it didn't happen. I almost shot a doe that night, But me and my wife had plans. She had a friend coming in that was staying at the house with us. We're going to get Mexican food that night and stuff. And I was like, you know what? If I shoot this doe, I'm going to be in here real late. It's going to mess up that plan. My wife isn't going to be mad, but she isn't going to be happy about it happening, you know? Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier in the podcast, my wife likes hog meat about as much as deer meat. So
I've got some venison if you want some. So
yeah,
I'm just saying, like, I probably, if I don't get some out of my freezer soon, there will be no, like, I don't have any. My dad doesn't have any room. I don't have any room.
Well, I'll take your least favorable cuts, whatever. I don't care, because we eat a lot of ground anyways, and y'all might slap me around for that, but it's truth. Like, there's nothing easier to turn into food than ground meat,
dude.
Like, you can get it done quick.
Tacos, sloppy joes, burgers, spaghetti,
whatever.
man.
Hamburger Helper, which I haven't had in a long time, but I'm not above it.
I used to hammer it in college.
It's good, man.
Yeah. Actually, when I lived in Sulphur,
Sulphur.
You know, just there near Cupper.
Yeah. Martin Springs.
I used to do a lot of Hamburger Helper.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man.
Deer
but,
meat.
That was the second to last hunt. I went for the final day of deer season in the evening. And here's a paradox, okay? Everything in deer hunting media and knowledge tells you that in late season, evenings are the best. I am here to say that at least on public land in East Texas, it's not the case. Because deer just straight up don't want to move in the daytime because you usually end up... It's funny, November is usually colder than December except for cold snaps. That's what it seems like to me. Like, we have more consistently cold days in November. In December, we get these Indian summers, and then January and February, it gets pretty chilly. Anyways, deer will lollygag and kind of slowly go back to bed and maybe even kind of doze around in the morning. Like the other morning, I saw 2 bucks. The last buck was at 9:45, I think, whereas the last 2 evenings I hunted, I didn't see any bucks at all. And
well, here's another thing, too, is that, like, when in late season, you and I talked about this quite a bit as we were trying to figure out how to kill a deer there. Like, we felt like what you had to do to kill a buck was to go deep and in an unpressured area and try to catch a buck not far from his bed, right? Mm-hmm. Because of that, like, late movement in the evenings. And so what you run into in the late season, like you hear, we've talked about this before, you hear a lot about buck bedding in the last like 5 years or so in hunting media. But a lot of those people are talking about that, and they're killing those deer in October and early November. And we're talking about ain't no leaves on any trees right now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And any bushes or anything hardly. And especially in this particular area that you're talking about where you hunted, flat, kind of, like I said, river bottom country. Mm-hmm. And so, like, getting within 150 yards of a bedded buck.
Tough.
Yeah, even if you knew exactly where his bed was, and then to hang a tree. Or hanging a tree, dude, without being seen.
It's Cornflake City down there, too.
Yeah.
You know,
dude, and it's impossible.
Here's the caveat on that, though, is that, what was it, around New Year's, or New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, we had a big weather front come through and dumped a ton of rain. The creek actually got out of its banks, and most of the habitat that we've been hunting got like a foot underwater for I don't know how long, but for a period of time. And it changed all the habitat down in there with just piles of, flotsam and stuff. And I continued to hunt it like I had been hunting it. And I think the deer changed what they were doing because of that too. Mm-hmm. So there's an external factor that I didn't adjust for. Pretty much just because it's a hard thing to make an adjustment to because you don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to observe and adjust. And I did because I'd set up on those 2 creek crossing trails. Well, those deer stopped using those trails and they started using 2 trails that were on a little bit higher ground. Mm-hmm. And I moved to that, and that's where those does came through. So it worked. It's just I didn't have a shot at a buck.
Yeah.
But
like, is that something, maybe this is the wrong word, but like, is that something that's universal? That would be a universal way to hunt that situation in the future for you? Like, did you learn something that you could probably use about hunting trails on secondary creeks that are on higher ground after floods? Like, do you think that's something that would translate year after year if you had that situation in the future?
I just don't think
Or
I
are you
had
just
enough
thinking
of a
that, like,
sample size.
I got you.
know?
I'm just wondering, like, is there something you could take away from that, or is it just still a piece that you're not going to be able to fully understand or comprehend right now, like how to hunt a place where deer have been flooded out?
I think it's a factor, and I think that in the future, my first move would be to not stay in the flooded stuff. My first move would be to go and try out the other stuff, and then if I see deer, adjust to the deer that were in the flooded stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I think that your probability is better to go to the stuff that's like, okay, it flooded here. The deer couldn't bed down in there that day, so they've adjusted their bedding temporarily. They're going to be on the higher ground, at least temporarily. How long? I don't know. But I was still kind of in the thought, because I had that buck come through grunting and chasing does, that, Texas is weird. I mean, Tyler just shot a deer 2 days ago in Kansas that was rutting. So, which is kind of a redneck way of saying it, but you get what I'm saying. That was, that was feeling it. So there's a good chance still that I could find a buck cruising, trying to smell does and stuff. And that was my thought on setting up on those trails, because those are the most heavily used trails going into that hunt. And then I really think that, like, every week changes drastically over there as you push towards, the spring or whatever. And sooner or later, I think, like, once you're in January, there's always the off chance of a fawn coming in cycle or whatever and bucks getting ruddy again. But for the most part, like, the 2 bucks I saw, there were does in the area, and one of them kind of looked at him and then just went on about his business. And that means he ain't thinking about it too much, you know. So anyway, I think that, my experience probably would help me make a move faster. I also was kind of lazy, because I was like, I gotta have
late in the year, man. It happens.
You're like, well, I got a good wind. I can just leave this here. And you talk yourself into this stuff, right? Because you're like, yes, I don't like to tear stuff down. I've done it 38 times already this year, maybe more. And if I don't tear stuff down, I make a lot less noise. I get out of here quieter. I can walk quieter, and I don't have to make noise in the morning when I come back in. I can just slip in here and get in the tree. And it kind of worked, because the next morning I went in there and I saw deer, just none of them were in range. Well, I say that. I had one buck at like 35 yards, but he's just through stuff, which, dude, East Texas deer at 35 yards is not in range unless you're a crossbow hunter. That's just all there is to it, man. It's pretty tough. It's a certain situation when you can take that shot, but most times, no. So, I don't know. But that closed out the year very appropriately. I've not had a lot of last day good hunts in Texas, on public land at least. I shot that meat buck on January 1st, but that wasn't really the last day of the season. That was a weird deal altogether. Y'all can go watch that video if you want to. It's pretty cool. But
can't comment on it though.
No. So that was the end of archery. I might shoot some out here with a muzzleloader, but I doubt it. But now it's like on to postseason scouting and hog hunting, which I'm excited about both of those things.
Hopefully
We've got
axes.
Hopefully so. We've got some. This probably since 2017 have I not been this excited about postseason scouting some stuff, man. I'm kind of looking forward to it. So we got to figure out a way to get some energy to go do that. That's kind of the hardest part about it. It's like, man, in January I kind of just want to nap, and not do anything hard.
Eat some cookies.
I need to not, because I was looking at pictures of myself from the hog hunt last year. I'm like, bro, you are a big hunter. So
K.C. is officially a big hunter. I'm pretty excited about the hog stuff and the postseason stuff too. Which we've got we're gonna do a map scout challenge leg here in like over 2 weeks. I guess.
Do you want to tell people if you're still listening? Of course, it's been kind of a long time.
It has.
But we're gonna do Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi, right? So if you have places, in those states that you want us to check out, send them our way and we'll do it. If not, I've already had some tip-offs and some thoughts on what to do and where to go. But we're always open to suggestion. Or if you just want to get together and get some boudin together, let us know about that.
Yeah, let us know where the best boudin is.
Yes, please.
I will pay you to be a part of our party.
Pay you in boudin balls.
You know, man. I'm pretty excited about that for sure. And I don't know what the Map Scout Challenge kind of looks like for us this year. I know we've got several good ideas, several places we'd like to go. It's not cheap to travel around the country from a time expenditure or gas or even if it was far enough, I guess plane tickets or whatever, which we did that once last year too. Mm-hmm. And so not cheap for us to go do that. So, depending on what kind of support we get for that this year, it will kind of determine how much of it we do in that manner. But we're going to do some other stuff that's a little bit easier to pull off as well. So, hopefully we can do it all is what we would like to do. But we're thinking about doing some, just straight up map stuff. We've given a little bit of proof that we can decently do some map scouting. And
so you and I both went to a new public land place in Kansas this year. Map scouted it with the help of each other and killed a deer on the first sit. Good bucks.
Yep.
Not to brag on ourselves, but if you'll give us the liberty of saying there's one thing we're good at, it's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Illinois.
Yeah. South Dakota.
Texas.
Where else we hunt this year? That's it.
I hunted Nebraska and got 12 yards from a buck.
You did. You did. One in Colorado and smelled an elk.
Yeah, we smelled a lot of elks. A lot of people.
Now, don't ask me to map scout elk because they live in the mountains.
You're good at it. It's just rough OTC units, But yeah, I'm just saying that hopefully we have given enough proof that we can give you guys some information with just a straight up map scout as opposed to a map and boot scout that you'll trust what we say and it could help you out in the future maybe. So not trying to say anything egotistical, just trying to say, hopefully there's some proof enough for you guys to see that. And if you needed more proof, then we'll try to do more proof with the Map Scout Challenge stuff. But like I said, it's kind of an expensive thing to do. And a lot of time, and if you're a person out there that knows about this kind of stuff, the Map Scout Challenge project last year, this is shooting just HD footage, not 4K, was a 1 terabyte project.
That's a whole hard drive.
It's a big old hard drive, man. So, gigantic project. Took me all summer to put it together and edit, and us to do all the work and everything. Lots of fun, and I'll be honest with you. I think it helped us a lot. I mean, it's like, in college and football, you practice like every single day, man, and it's just becomes something that you do every day, and the things that you do are just. Like you almost consider walking backwards to class just because that's part of that's going to help you backpedal better or whatever, It's like, and then I look back at that now, I'm like, man, people would have freaking thought I was a weirdo if I did that, but I almost thought about doing it, Your boy Rich Cody, I think, did that. You know who I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Rich Cody was A&M walk-on safety that played for the Rams and won a Super Bowl on special teams. Underneath Frank Gans, who was my coach at SMU.
I know that name, Frank Gans.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of disappointed myself. I don't know who Rich Cody is.
Yeah, he was a white safety that...
Wafety.
He was a wafety that walked on at A&M and then eventually played in the pros. Yeah. Won a Super Bowl.
That's cool.
He was a kind of a mentor of mine the first couple of years there at SMU.
Yeah.
But he very much wanted me to walk backwards to class. So I said, dude, I'm not walking down the boulevard at SMU backwards. But yeah, so I think that practice helped us tremendously this year. But anyway, those are the things, man. And another thing I just kind of want to say is, man, big thanks to Onyx for their support this year with the Map Scout Challenge in the summer, and just what their support throughout the season stuff as well. Their product has put us on a lot of deer, man.
Yeah,
made it easy for us, easier than what it was 10 years ago when we were trying to do stuff like this.
Except for that stupid 3D button. I got to get rid of that thing. Otherwise, great product.
Yeah, come on, yo. Also, if I hold my thumb on the map while I'm looking at something and another map pin pops up, I'm going to cut this thing off.
Let me just tell you, I've learned that one and I like it now.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah, I used it a couple times recently.
It's handy when you're in a pinch. You're like, I got because what I do, like if I'm walking through the woods, I'll just drop a pin, like if I see deer sign or something, and then when I get to the stand or wherever, I'll like go back and adjust it and write on there what it was and change the icon or whatever. But like you can just
I know. I was kind of tongue in cheek there because I know when it first came out, you and I were like so frustrated with that. And then like now, I haven't accidentally put a map or a pin on a map.
I have a little bit, but I can tell you this much: the 3D button has not gotten any cooler. It has not done that. So. Yeah.
Well, all right. With that, it's been long enough. Thanks for listening. Because if you're listening, you're listening, and I appreciate that. So
hunting with Hunter and hunting deer Hunter.
That's right. Yeah. Hopefully, you get to meet that guy soon.
Come to the Hog Hunt. He'll be there.
Yeah.
The
People
Hog Hunt. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, keep all that stuff in mind. The Hog Hunt. Hopefully, we'll get some videos out to you guys soon. We appreciate the support with that. Hopefully you can continue to share with your friends, man. Let them know what the element has got going on. I think we got some new T-shirts in the works too, so probably open that up to some guys at the Hog Hunt. But we look forward to seeing all you guys that are going to be doing that. And remember, this is your element.
Living it.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.